Welcome to the Backyard Professor Responds videos. Tonight's discussion is an interesting one. We've got drones, UFOs flying over Donald Trump's golf course even, and a time traveler from 2585, I believe, who has come back and given us predictions of 2025. This is going to be an interesting show tonight. Let's get on with a couple of news items that I found, and I will share my impressions of what they say. Then I'm going to talk about a man named the Combat Veteran Reacts. His analysis of these drones are extremely interesting. He doesn't think they're UFOs. I listened to Ross Coulthart today, News Nation. He's got a wonderful program on and he analyzes it in good depth. I mean, it's like 45 minutes. I'm not going to discuss him tonight, but I will leave a link in his video in the description along with the Combat Veteran because his ideas are extremely interesting as well. Let's get started. Let's see what is going on tonight. All of these are today's videos, by the way. They're brand new. This is just out today.
The U.S. Air Force says unidentified drones have been spotted over 4 joint U.S. and U.K. military bases in England. The mysterious drones have repeatedly appeared for over a week now. Stephanie Bennett is live in London. So, Stephanie, this is pretty disturbing. What do we know about these drones?
I mean, the details are still very limited at this time. We do know that the sightings started last week on November 20th, and they have really ranged in size, in style, and also the amount that we've been seeing over that last week or so. Now, a senior British official confirmed to Fox that the UK has deployed about 60 troops, including counter-drone specialists, to help determine who is behind this and to help defend the air bases amid fears it's a potential coordinated operation.
One of the discussing points of this is if they're just drones, why the military call out? And if they are UFOs, is that why they're not trying to shoot them down? Because declaring war against the UFOs based on what we believe the government knows about them would be completely foolhardy. That's not a wise choice. Now, Coulthart, in his analysis, said a couple of times that the reason the military is not shooting down the drones is if they are, say, Chinese or the Russian drones. If the Chinese drones are trying to increase the friction between nations, right, between the United States and Russia, and if we start shooting down their drones, that's a declaration of war. And so perhaps that's why the military is staying calm. But my question is this: if a drone sent from a foreign country is going to hover over our military installations, is that not a declaration of war of that foreign country? See, I wasn't quite convinced with Coulthart's analysis, because if we did that to China's military bases, you really think they would just let us fly dozens and dozens of drones around with impunity? I have my serious doubts. So this issue is a tense one. Now, what we're all hoping for sincerely is, and I have seen some speculation, and there's a few YouTube videos now that are coming out trying to analyze this situation, and they're saying, has World War III already started and we're just at the front, or is this a provocation to begin World War III? Is China stirring the pot again? I mean, they hack our computers. They cause all kinds of problems. They've been buying American property by the tens of millions of acres, and we keep stupidly selling it to them. And then they do this with drones. I mean, this is seriously problematic no matter how we look at it, whether it's drones, UFOs or otherwise. So let's keep going just for a moment.
They're describing the incidents as unusual and say this is a serious set of circumstances. Take a look at this map. The bases are spread across England and are all used by U.S. Air Force. Now, the drones have been seen over RAF Fairford, Lakenheath, Mildenhall, and Feltwell. For now, civilian police, supported by the U.K. Ministry of Defence, have launched an investigation. And so far, we're told there has been no impact to residents or infrastructure, and they have not been identified as hostile. Well, a Ministry of Defence spokesperson said we take threats seriously and maintain robust measures at defense sites. But as of right now, it has not had any significant mission impact.
Because a little later on tonight, I'm going to share the combat veteran reacts video, and he is explaining this in pretty good detail. It's really well done.
Now, it's not clear why the flights have happened or who is flying the devices, but federal and state officials stress that there are currently no known threats to public safety. The flights have raised questions in part because they took place near a U.S. military research and manufacturing facility, as well as over President-elect Donald Trump's golf course in Bedminster. The FBI asking that residents share any videos or photos they may have of the flights, along with other relevant information.
Now, this is interesting. This is the ones in New Jersey. And he said something very significant. He said the FBI is asking the public to send them pictures and videos of these drones. That is very interesting. And the combat veteran is going to discuss that with us here in just a little bit. I just wanted to share that brief clip from another newscast. Let's take a look at another one.
A flying drone mystery raising alarms in New Jersey. There are clusters of large drones swarming the skies near the Bedminster Golf Club belonging to President-elect Trump. What is going on? Nate Foy with an update in our newsroom. Hi, Nate.
Hey, Dana. So one witness says it's like a parade. The drones just keep coming one after another, and you can hear them coming because they're so loud. Listen to the power of this drone last night. So residents in Morris County tell me this has been happening every single night with the exception of Thanksgiving over the past few weeks. One family claims they followed a drone in their car, and while it hovered above them, the clock in their car changed times. Then they say the clock went back to normal after they drove off.
Number one, the drones are very noisy, and that's why they know they're drones. Typically, the explanation for a UFO is there's no sound, there's no emission. They do fly fairly fast and they dart back and forth, etc. These drones are behaving just like drones, they're looking like drones, and they're sounding like drones. That story that he said about that one family where a drone came over their car and it changed their clock, and then when the drone left, the clock went back, that's anecdotal. My impression of this is that they are seeking to get a little edgewise in with a potential UFO possibility instead of just normal human drones, right? Because drones don't have that effect at all on electronics. Unless, of course, it's armed with something that disrupts electronics, right? So how dangerous is it to let these things just fly around? What is going on? This is actually very serious, and it's been happening for weeks now. So that's an idea that I wanted to share with you.
Know what it is, but they're saying there's no threat to the public, so it makes people think that they know more than what they're leading on, and that's definitely concerning to a lot of people, to most people.
Have you ever seen, anything like this?
No. And we're calling them drones, and a lot of people who haven't seen them are thinking they're the little camera drones, the Google Maps drones, but they're not. They're like the size of small cars. They're huge. So it's something that no one's ever seen before.
So that's an important key too. I just wanted to get that in there just so that we understand the size of them. And now that little triangle shape, triangles are being associated with UFOs, right? I think, quite frankly, obviously, that is a particular drone in that particular video, however. So now I want to share a very interesting post from a bro Bible. And I think this is so remarkable because we have a chance now here to do a test that's going to be quite fun to do. I personally think this gives us a great opportunity to either have confirmation of time travelers from the future to our day who are talking to us right now, claiming they are from the future several hundred years. They've given us a way to test them. Let's take a look at this. I personally am I'm going to keep my eye on this. I'm very skeptical myself. We will see, though. Okay, this is on Bro Bible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through it as I read it. Time traveler from the year 2582 shares several dire warnings for 2025. This is an article by Douglas Charles, December 5th, 2024. So this is just out yesterday. So for too long, people have had doubts about my authenticity as a real-time traveler. TikTok user at the Time Traveler 2582 writes in their latest video, "Today I come with 100% proof." Okay, so this is very interesting because nobody talks like that, really. So, with almost 300,000 followers and 2.9 million likes, this guy is pretty popular, but he's making dire warnings for the future. In other words, he's whipping people up, and it's starting to spook them. So let's see what he says. "Remember these upcoming dates of major events in the next weeks or months," our friendly neighborhood time traveler wrote. "This time, you should believe my authenticity." Yes, indeed. We are going to pay attention to these. So what does he say? December 29th, 2024. The rocket Falcon 9 Block 5 is sent to space, but hits the firmament. Hits the firmament? What on earth is he talking about? Hits the firmament? The Apollo mission flew to the moon and came back and never hit the firmament. I think this is an allusion to the old biblical Hebrew concept of the firmament, the being a hard metal dome, because back in ancient times, the heavens were concentric spheres of circles and different layers, and the firmament was the one closest around the earth. And so the impression is it's going to go up there and blam, hit the firmament. So that's kind of an odd little description. Okay, but it is going to hit the firmament. Okay. It is shortly confirmed by NASA itself that the firmament is real. We already know the firmament is real. It's just not solid metal dome. So the outer space is a massive ocean. Many discoveries will be made shortly thereafter. So this is almost kind of silly. But anyway, there's his first prediction. So now, a month later, January 30th, 2025, the world finally finds peace. Now, this is good news. Every conflict comes to an end during this year. It will last for a few weeks before coming back much stronger, unfortunately. This period of peace, seems like just a couple of weeks, will be historical and named, quote, calm before storm, unquote. So keep that in our minds. We can check his accurate knowledge. February 2nd, just a few days later, 2025, aliens are officially confirmed to be living on Earth among us. Officially by who, I would like to ask. They are working with the government of the USA in advanced technology. So, see, Full disclosure right here from the time traveler. Here it is. This is what we've been waiting for. It's going to happen February 2nd, 2025. They are way ahead of our civilization. This must be a result of his prediction that on August 27th, 2024, an alternative universe with new form of life would be discovered. And finally, April 5th, so we skip through March and there's something big in April 5th. 2 scientists find the greatest cure to have ever been discovered. Sadly, they will both go missing shortly after making this discovery. They will never be seen again. No one knows what happened to them. And I do believe that's it. Other warnings he issued in the past for the year 2025 include a small meteor containing antimatter hitting Earth on December 12th. That's 6 days from now, you guys. December 12th, 2025. And Grand Theft Auto 6 will be officially released on PlayStation and PlayStation 5 Pro on October 25th, 2025. And on January 1st, 2026, the Great Reset happens, making a huge change for humanity. So, pretty interesting predictions. So, why am I mean, I'm not going to go out of my way to worry about these very much, but I will share just one of them that really gets my BS meter really high, and I'm just skeptical. And here's why. A time traveler coming back is the reverse of prophecy looking forward, right? Because the time traveler, he's giving the impression here now. It doesn't explicitly say so. I've never heard of this until today. Maybe in previous posts and videos, he's already described how he has lived through our time. So this gives me the impression that he's been alive for several hundred years, right? And he's already lived with us right here, right now, through our time, all the way up to 2585. And now he's chosen to come back and warn us about what he lived through and saw. Okay? So that's my impression. Let's look at his one part here that I do have some questions about. Somewhat interesting. His aliens thing is interesting. His 2-week piece is very interesting. This is specific. This period of peace will be historical and named Calm Before Storm. Okay, so on the April 5th one, that's the one I want to focus on, 2025, 4 months from now, 5 months from now, December. 2 scientists find the greatest cure to have ever been discovered. So my question is this. And I'm not trying to be too persnickety here, but if he's already lived through our period, through our day, and he saw this event happen, this is vague to scientists. Why not name them? I mean, sincerely, they're going to find the greatest cure to ever happen. Look, doesn't that mean they're famous? We've got television. I mean, won't they be known worldwide for this astonishingly happy discovery? Why not give specific names then? Who are they? Dr. John Thompson and Dr. Susan L. Smith discovered the greatest cure for cancer. It will now be destroyed. Now that's a good, detailed discussion that we can truly say, yeah, that guy is from the future and he did live through our time. But 2 scientists discover the greatest cure ever. Of what? He never names it. See what I mean? So, again, it's like all those Nostradamus prophecies. I did a huge study on Nostradamus in my junior year in college. And I discovered that everybody is, I bought all the books. I had a library of Nostradamus crap. And everybody was interpreting Nostradamus within the cultural, political, historical age that they were living and writing in. I had books in the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. And I looked through the decades. And every single quatrain of Nostradamus was interpreted differently from every single author. I think I didn't do an exhaustive PhD type study, but I had 16 different authors. And every one of them had their own particular flavor and interpretation of the same quatrains, so that as I lined them all out, every quatrain had 16 different interpretations that in no way were the same thing. So the vagueness, the ability to make the prophecy fit into anything. Who here remembers Hal Lindsey, the late great planet Earth? I thought God himself came down and talked to Hal Lindsey. And that was back when I was full-fledged Mormon. And I accepted that book lock, stock, and barrel. I was preaching about it in priesthood meeting. I said, this is the greatest book of prophecy ever given, man. The Bible is absolutely true, And he had all the Bible prophecies perfectly matched with the political and the economical and the historical and the social events of our culture and the world in 1980. And he said, it's just for all intents and purposes here. We don't have very long now. We just maybe a couple of years and it's over. Jesus will be here. You look at that now and you realize, oh my gosh, everything he said about oil was wrong, the economy, everything, the world leaders and who was who and how they all matched in with the biblical prophecy. None of that stuff's relevant now. Nobody even bothers to look at it. He was guessing because the prophecies are too vague. And that is my observation with this gentleman who calls himself the time traveler. He lived through our era on into the future. Then he comes back and warns us about dire consequences in our day. Right now, they're on us. Within the next 6 months, there's going to be 4 or 5 really significant events that occur that is going to affect our life. And they're so vague as to be useless. So that's my analysis of this time traveler gentleman. Now, let me get over to the combat veteran reacts, because his is really valuable. This is probably the best analysis that I have ever seen. Let's go to him.
I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about the strange story of New Jersey's drone epidemic. Okay, so this is one of literally dozens of videos that are on social media.
Today is November 25th, 2024.
Each of these lights is actually a drone flying.
See 3 drones just in this view. There is another one over here and another one back here.
There's a 4th.
That's fine.
So you can see what they look like to almost be doing is deploying some kind of almost like a lattice or a relay network where they're all in line of sight of each other.
5. And these are the ones that interest me most because they are coming right this way. This is taken from across the street of.
But what we have to ask ourselves then is, why. And this is something where this isn't just a couple of guys on social media. Reportedly, there are dozens of these drones that are flying across Morris County, but also Medham, Chester, Randolph, Roxbury, Morris, Rockaway, Dover, and beyond. This is a really bizarre series of events, right? When you look up Morris County, New Jersey, you can see that it's notable in that it is just a suburb of New York. And
so that's important. I wanted to show you that map and his analysis that it's not just one or two little hobbyists. This thing is pretty big and widespread. Okay, so let's keep going because his next few points are also very, very interesting.
What's also troubling is that there's an acknowledgement, right, by the FBI that this is a open investigation, and there's other signs that this is not part of a military testing protocol.
So even the FBI is saying it's not us. It's not a military testing protocol. We're keeping our eye on this. So what is it? Let's keep looking. He brings some good ideas out here.
Okay, so here's the reason why I know this isn't part of some kind of weapons testing program or like a drone lattice, like a drone network testing, is because this is a medevac helicopter trying to land in Somerset County, New Jersey, was unable to do so because these nighttime drone flights were occurring. Right. And so this was a late night crash that required a life flight, and the life flight was unable to land because there were drones in the air, and that individual had to be transported by ground to the nearest hospital much slower and really in a much more dangerous situation. The FBI is requesting pictures and videos from the public. This is not something you would do if they were testing an experimental weapon system, right? Remember, decades ago when the U.S. was testing its B-2s and its F-114 stealth fighters and bombers, they didn't really encourage pictures. They wouldn't allow pictures to be published, and certainly the FBI wasn't telling people, hey, take pictures of those aircraft, make sure we can the Area 51 wants all the photos and mementos they can get, right? That's not what you do with your own weapon systems. You would instead be like, don't worry about it, it's under control, or make some vague statement of but right now the FBI is like, no, call us if you see them, report it if you see them. We don't know where it is and what's going on, and that itself is pretty troubling.
Number one, the FBI is now finally including the public. I mean, these guys, along with the DOD and the NSA and all those guys, they've been keeping all this stuff secret and don't want to tell us anything. But with all of this drone activity, now it's pretty obvious. You can't just say, oh, nothing's happening. This is swamp gas. That bull roar isn't going to fly. We've got cameras. Don't be such idiots like you always have been. So now the FBI, isn't it odd that if they're asking the public for pictures and help, are they completely overwhelmed? That might be interesting. Our own FBI overwhelmed? That's not a comforting thought at all. I like how he analyzes this.
Because we've got to ask ourselves, why would you do this? Why would you fly dozens of drones at night? By most of the reports, these are very large drones, right? Larger than you can fit on a desk is how one person described it. Some people even said they were the size of small cars, but people are bad at judging distance in the daytime, and they're even worse at night. But still, these are large, powerful drones. And so I think what this may actually be is because dozens of drones indicates that this is not like an amateur operation, right? Dozens of large capacity heavy lift drones, not something that you would expect from, again, a group of hobbyists or, like basically any kind of hobby related thing. Again, a large let's see what like a 6-foot wingspan drone would cost, right? So you're talking about, okay, well, if these were fixed wing drones, okay, here you go. A seed spraying drone with about 6 rotors, going to run you about $1,000. A long range, kind of like a Mavic clone, is going to be about $3,000. You can see a flying cart delivery drone from DJI. It's going to run you about $20,000. So,
all right, that's kind of an interesting observation too, because we've seen news reports where there's an Army major or colonel or general or whoever it is standing up there in front of the news group, and they're asking about this. He said, well, we're keeping our eye on it, but it's probably just a bunch of hobbyists. So they know what's going on. I think it's obvious that they know what's going on, and they aren't telling us. But it's his analysis of why they're not shooting these down that I thought was really good. First, he's going to get through a little bit more, and then we'll get to that. And every point he makes is just so good.
Right. So, one, we should consider it is possible, but very unlikely, that this is sort of like a drone operator's version of joyriding. Those ATVs and dirt bikes that would sometimes blaze through cities and kind of gangs just being reckless and crazy. It could be the version of that. But generally, drone pilots, drone operators, drone hobbyists do not behave this way. They're a high investment item. There's not like a fun element, right? If they were out there having fun, you would see the drones looping and drooping and zipping and zagging, right? They're not doing that. They're sitting in formation, clearly occupying positions, either watching something or testing out some kind of protocol. And
so that's an interesting process of elimination that he's giving us to show that the swamp gas type explanations of the military that have been talked to by the news organizations on camera are still giving us just crap, right? Because the hobbyists, there's nothing fun about this. Now, I'm a drone flyer. It's been a while since I've flown one, but yeah, just kind of sitting there and hovering and moving through the air in a straight line. Man, that's not how you fly drones. You want to fly drones, zip them through trees and then climb really high and go up over the trees and back down and around the rocks and under bridges and all kinds of fun stuff. That's not what we're seeing here. So I think he does a very good, credible job there of explaining that the military is not giving us the truth, right? We know that already. I get that. Don't yell at me for that, but still, his analysis here is good. And that's why I like this guy so much, because he's just so straightforward, down to earth, and entirely logical.
Sort of the other theory. And my leading theory is actually, we've seen other intelligence operations, particularly the Chinese, who would have Chinese nationals who are at the end of their visa anyway, would appear to be being put up by Chinese intelligence to purchase commercial drones, fly them over sensitive military facilities, and then report the footage back to the Chinese. These individuals are then arrested. They claim they were just drone hobbyists. They plead guilty to a 3 to 6 month sentence for unauthorized flying a drone without permission. And the Chinese government welcomes them back after they're deported. And so this kind of protocol might be something that other countries are starting to experiment with. It's also more sinister. These other hostile actors may be asking themselves, what exactly can the United States stop? At what scale does the U.S. actually intervene and stop drones? And this is one of the things that I've talked about there. The U.S. is very passive in the face of, well, frankly, almost anything foreign intelligence services do. Turkey appears to have faced no consequences for bribing Mayor Eric Adams. The Russian intelligence wing has faced zero consequences for frying the brains of intel officers. Those Chinese nationals that flew drones faced, again, slap on the wrist sentences, and their punishment is getting sent back to China, which is, of course, exactly what they want. So the U.S. and remember the Chinese spy balloon that flew over the entirety of the continental United States before the United States even chose to shoot it down. And so what I think may be happening is a foreign power is asking the question of, what does it take for the United States military to intervene on drone flights?
That is really the key. So this is important. I've seen so many comments in so many videos on this drone issue where people are just frustrated. They're saying, man, shoot them down. Shoot them down. Now, Ross Coulthart's analysis of this is interesting because what he says is that would be declaring an act of war, and then that would suck the United States. I mean, for instance, supposing they're Chinese drones, we shoot them down, then China declares war on America and joins Russia. Now, of course, that's not just, because they're the ones being the provokers and breaking the law. They're the ones declaring war. But we are trying to be cautious and not escalate this thing into a world war. And maybe that's what the foreign nations are thinking. They're realizing, you know what, we can get away with a lot of stuff now with the United States because they don't want this war. And we certainly don't want China and Russia joining together, right? So that's kind of Ross Coulthart's take. But let's keep listening, because he also has another interesting angle on this that I had not thought of before.
What does it take? And what is their process when the drones become so pervasive that they become like, what is the tool the U.S. uses to stop drones? And this is one of the reasons that the U.S. may not be shooting down drones, is because they're like, we have some kind of secret gee whiz thing, but we don't want to show our hand. So we're just going to, unless the drones are doing something really egregious, we don't want to show it, because once we show people how we're going to stop the drones, then those state actors are going to engineer drones that are thing proof, right? And so the U.S. military may say, we don't want to show our hand because we only have one way to take down these drones. We don't want to get ousted for it. But the fear, and that what's starting to happen now, is that these foreign powers are saying, perhaps the U.S. military or U.S. government has no way to take down drones. Perhaps they cannot stop these drones from flying, and we are going to just scale them up to a degree that is absolutely absurd, where almost no state would permit this kind of activity. And we're going to get the U.S. to deploy whatever its anti-drone weapons are.
There you have it. It's like the little puppy dog, brand new 3-week-old puppy dog, picking on the big old bulldog, right? How much can you get? Yeah, nip his ears, pull him a little bit, grab him by his lip and pull his lip, and bark at him and yap and jump on him and crawl all over him. How much provocation can it take? Because we want to see what the U.S. has. And what that will do is perhaps convince China and Russia that they do need to join, and let's go get North Korea involved also. I mean, South Korea declared martial law for a little while. It's a pretty unstable region. We could get all of these countries together, and then we could go pound on the United States, or finish off the Ukraine first and then go get. This might be why the United States is being very patient with this kind of blatant disregard, total lack of respect for the law internationally and airspace, etc. It's an option. It's not the answer, but it is an option. The thing I like that he's doing is he is exploring all points of view. And that is my philosophy on everything, as far as that goes. Whether I'm studying one of Joseph Smith's doctrines out of the Book of Mormon, or one of his prophecies, or whether I'm studying the concept of infinity with scientific and mathematical analysis, or one of the science essays on evolution that I have in so many of my books over here, etc. The more sides we try to analyze this from, the more probable that we'll make a better choice, because none of us want World War III, man. I really wish the aliens watching us have just got to be shaking their heads and saying, these guys are a bunch of blithering idiots. They keep going to war. They're a warlike people, man, and that's going to ruin our Earth, and that's not what we want. I mean, one of the theories for the aliens is that they've been here a lot longer than we have. Interesting options, isn't it? Let's keep going and see what else this gentleman says.
Or they're simply going to say, maybe we're going to expose them as being utterly powerless to stop them, which is sort of the more terrifying option. But again, if the U.S. is unwilling to stop drones, is it the same thing as being unable to stop them, right? Because you could sit there and say, yeah, I could stop this drone anytime I want. It's like an alcoholic who's like, physically, I can stop drinking anytime I want. I can put down the glass and no one is forcing me to drink. But is being unwilling to stop drinking the same thing as being unable to stop drinking, right? Anyone who's dealt with someone with addiction will tell you, yeah, they're the same thing. And so if the U.S. government is so impotent that they refuse to even stop continually pervasive harassment of unauthorized drone flights, if they're so limp-wristed that they can't do it, then it's the same thing as being unable to do it. And so if you're one of the U.S.'s enemies, you're looking at this and you're saying, man, it sounds like we can spy on anything we want, and more troubling, that
is one of the options. But realistically, we could shoot these drones down. I'm thinking the government has chosen not to just yet. And who knows why, right? We don't know why. And so now here's the other option too. We do have really good video that a lot of this activity is drones, but people have seen orbs also. So is this a concoction, maybe a mix of both human military drones and the UFOs? That's kind of an interesting option, isn't it? I mean, the UFOs would want to pay attention to this really serious, scaled up situation. So we don't have any hard, fast answers yet. We're exploring the philosophical, the militarily tactical options that is open, but we're not there yet. So patience, and I know, but in this particular situation, seriously, patience is a virtue. I mean, if this does cause World War III by shooting down those drones, and on the other hand, if they really are seeking and gathering intelligence of our bases, and they come to the conclusion that we are not as strong as they had presumed, and they join together and World War III happens because we're not strong enough. See, this is close to a catch-22, right? So this is a pretty serious situation, in my opinion. Not very comfortable. Okay, one more video clip.
And again, I don't want these things to be like turbo alarmist, but I get alarmed when I see our government unable to address a threat. And the more publicly they fail to address even the most obvious imminent threats, the less faith that we, the public, have in our government's ability to do anything, right? How can we expect a government to keep us safe from Russian hackers or terrorists, or pick your poison, guys? Russians, terrorists, North Koreans, Chinese spies. How can they expect even scam callers? Look at how little the U.S. government seems able to stop. If they can't stop somebody from calling my phone and be trying to scam me out of money, and they can't stop some jabroni from flying drones again and again and again, then how are they going to stop anything? And they can't sit there and say, well, we don't understand why the public doesn't trust us. Well, it's because you're almost humiliatingly impotent.
Man, as far as I'm concerned, that's a wrap. Yeah. And yet they demand more and more and more out of the public. And we appear to be losing more and more and more of our freedoms. Yeah, this is a dire situation. So I did want to share this with us, not to depress us, because I'm an eternal optimist, but we will keep our eyes on this situation. We'll see what develops. With the California earthquake of 7.0 near Northern California, that causes all kinds of disruptions. They had some pretty severe aftershocks today. Yesterday was the main California, and today they had more aftershocks. Who knows where the next earthquake's going to hit? These are serious issues for our serious times, and this is yet another reason why we can't come to any hard, fast conclusions just yet, but we can speculate and try to understand where our best options is and work out the probabilities, because the last thing we need is to be divided as a nation. There is strength in unity, not in division. And is that what these drones are trying to do? Is divide Americans? We just don't know at this point, but let's not let them do that to us. We can choose not to go that direction. So thanks for watching my Backyard Professor Responds videos. I will have a lot more coming out just as soon as I find good information, which I have gobs. Not a very professional way to put it, but who cares? I will catch up to you soon. You guys have a good night.